verify it. What percent of our total budget goes to public education?
Okay, in public education, I'm going to have to give you all of education, and I can split it out for you later. For all funds, of that $173 billion number I started with, all agencies of education, 42%.
42%.
But then when you switch to GR, which is the revenue you all have most control over, it goes up to 56.5%. And that's for public and higher ed.
And that's for public and higher ed. For public education, we're looking at basically with all of that, 56%. And then this might not be in your realm. Does anybody have any concept of the percentage of our budget for Article 2, Health and Human Services?
Same thing. All funds, 32%. But then that drops to 28.2% when you look at GR because, of course, we get a lot of federal funds in Medicaid.
That's a pretty stout amount, Mr. Chairman. Those two articles put together, it doesn't leave much for the other 8 articles, does it?
That's right.
If you throw criminal justice in there, Ms. Rillo, you're almost to 95%, I think.
When we throw that in?
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. And, second question very quickly. I know in my area most of the school districts had their own rainy day funds, which were fairly substantial, into the millions, 25 million and so on and so forth. Are there any school districts out there in Texas that either had just very minimal or no rainy day fund, or did most of them have their own rainy day fund?
Well, any district that's running a fiscally responsible shop should be trying to hold on to a reserve, and most of them do. Now, you hold on to that reserve sometimes to make some capital purchases that you don't want to use bonds for or something like that. So you may get caught at a point where your ending balance is a little bit low because you just spent some money on school buses or something like that.
Well, we all have to do that. We have our savings account. Sometimes we have to put in a new water heater.
That's right.
So I can relate to that. So, but so what you're telling me is the majority of the school districts had their own rainy day funds as well.
Yes.
So they weren't left just completely high and dry.
No. And in fact, one of the things we're doing, members, over this interim is we're doing a survey of school districts to see exactly how they responded to the decisions that were made by the legislature. Some may have dipped into their reserves, some may have had reductions in force, some may have tighten their administrative budgets. We're going to try to find out through survey as much as we can about that to help you all out next session.
It would be interesting to find out those that were demanding that we dip into our rainy day funds to avoid any cuts for teachers if they went ahead and dipped into their own rainy day funds to avoid those cuts. Thank you, sir.